guys, welcome back to The Mind of Brandon. As indicated by the title of this video, I am sharing my thoughts on the MGTOW movement. Now, this is a viewer requested video. I was asked to visit a YouTube channel called Sandman and to dive into MGTOW, learn all about it, and share my thoughts. That said, this MGTOW thing is still pretty new to me. I'm definitely not an expert on the subject. I really haven't watched that many videos on the subject. So if there's anyone in the movement that thinks, something needs to be clarified, just, let me know down in the comment section. But yeah, I do think I have pretty much the gist of what it's about. For anyone who's never heard of that, MGTOW stands for Men Going Their Own Way. And my interpretation of what this movement is about is basically just kind of like educating people on some issues with the present dating and relationship paradigm, ways that men get shafted by the system, that sort of thing, and kind of encouraging, I guess you could say, a boycott of sorts, or a form of activism that they feel will help do away with some of the issues that we're seeing. So I guess what I want to do in this video is I just want to look at part of Sandman's introduction to MGTOW and just kind of give my thoughts on that little section. Anyone that wants to see the rest of the video, all you have to do is go to Sandman's YouTube channel and you can find the video pretty easily there. It's just called Introduction to MGTOW. But yeah, I just want to look at the part where he's talking about the different levels of MGTOW, so that we can see if there's a particular level that, I might identify with.
With regards to becoming a MGTOW, there are 4 or 5 different levels to MGTOW. The first level is the purple pill man. This is the man that's aware that women use the government, the courts, and men's desires to reproduce to take advantage of men. But the purple pill man believes that the risks of a relationship and marriage are often worth the potential punishment.
So I want to go ahead and establish that I really have little to no interest in ever being in a long-term committed monogamous relationship, and even less interest in ever getting married. I'd go as far as to say that I have an aversion to the idea of ever getting married, at least at the present time. It's possible that in the future I'll change my mind. I might see some kind of practicality to it later on down the road. But for now, I'm not interested. Okay. So if I'm comparing myself to this level 1 MGTOW who thinks that marriage might be worth the risk, I can't really identify that. I do not identify with the level 1 MGTOW at the present time. I might change my mind later on down the road, but for now it just doesn't sound like me. But let's look at level 2.
A level 2 MGTOW believes in dating and short-term relationships, but not marriage, long-term relationships, or cohabitation with women. To him, these often seem very dangerous.
Okay, now that sounds more like me. Basically, I want to, kind of play the field, date around, get experience with a bunch of different kinds of women. Not necessarily all different kinds, but a bunch of different kinds. Blondes, brunettes, redheads, whites, blacks, Arabs, Orientals, Latinas, Indians, right? I want to try out a bunch of different kinds of beautiful women without feeling like I have to, chain myself down to some kind of commitment, commit to a girl long term. Oh, you're going to be the only one that I'm going to be with for the rest of my fucking life. What? I mean, if that's your thing, if there's people watching who are into the whole long-term committed monogamous relationship thing, I'm not judging. I mean, I don't think it's one size fits all or anything like that. I think makes perfect sense to have different kinds of relationships within our culture, right? Just because there's a kind that works for me doesn't mean that it'll work for everyone else. Just because there's a kind that works for you doesn't mean it's going to work for me, right? I know that in the past when I've talked about what I want to do, I want to try out a bunch of different kinds. I'm not particularly interested in a long-term commitment to one particular woman. I've basically been told that I'm objectifying women, right? And I think that's putting a negative spin on something that's actually a good thing. You know, by dating around, getting experience with a bunch of different kinds of women, that can actually help me narrow down what kind of a woman I'd actually be willing to have a long-term committed monogamous relationship with if I ever decided I wanted to do that. That said, there's a great scholar I'm particularly fond of, goes by the name Robert Sapolsky. I was watching a lecture of his a while back where he was talking about poly relations versus monogamous relations, and you know, how do these kinds of relationships benefit the people in them? You know, what are the possible issues with them? And he was talking about how people that are in poly relationships, that can actually be very good for the people that are in those poly relationships. Who it's not so good for is for the children of the people that are in those poly relationships. So, I would say, for people who are interested in reproducing, maybe for those people it might be better to be in a long-term committed monogamous relationship. But if you just want to date around, have some fun, not take a relationship with any one person way too fucking seriously, be okay with people coming and going from your life, letting go when necessary instead of just clinging on. No, be mine forever and ever. Yeah. Another scholar I'm quite fond of course, is Jacques Fresco. He talks about some time that he spent with the people known as the Tuamotu. This would have been like 80 years ago. I really don't know what that place is like nowadays, but back then, when Fresco went to go spend some time with these Tuamotu, the chief offered to share one of his wives. And, Jock was kind of, upset about that. Like, what the hell? That's wrong. What's he doing, right? But he kind of realized, well, it's not necessarily that there's something wrong with it. Is there something wrong with it? Or is that just how I was conditioned to think? Is that how I was indoctrinated, right? So he realizes that there's a different cultural context. And the truth is that these Tuamotu people really had their shit together. Again, I don't know what it's like there now, but back then it was a peaceful society. There wasn't really any crime or anything like that. So their way of their approach to relationships, I guess, being able to share without any jealousy or anything like that, seemed to work out pretty well. Don't get me wrong, I don't expect to be dating 5 women a week or anything like that. But, it might be nice to have some variety in my dating, not to feel like I'm chained down to any one particular person. Oh, because I'm dating this person, that means I can't date that chick, that chick, that chick. It'd be nice to have selection, options available to you, So this week, I might be more interested in a spicy ginger, whereas next week, I might be more interested in something sweet and chocolatey. Maybe the next week I'll be craving Asian. So yeah, I would say that so far it's actually not too hard to identify with this level 2 MGTOW. But let's look at level 3.
A level 3 MGTOW doesn't believe in dating women at all, and limits his interactions with women as much as possible.
Well, that definitely does not sound like where I'm at in my life right now, but at the same time, I would say that to some extent, it does kind of sound at least a little bit like where I want to be in the future. After doing a whole bunch of dating around with women, I would kind of like to get to a point where I just don't care about dating anymore. So basically, I want to get to this point where anytime I see a beautiful woman, I can kind of take this attitude of, well, been there, done that, don't need to pursue that any further, right? I'd like to be content, anytime I get horny, just squeeze one out, just watch some porn, jack off, right? Or Sandman pointed out there's such a thing as sex robots, right? There's actually some very lifelike sex robots. They're pretty expensive. I don't know if I'll ever actually buy one. But the next best thing is the silicone love dolls. There's some pretty lifelike silicone love dolls out there. Those are also pretty expensive, but not quite as. And so, you know, who knows? Maybe in the future, after, you know, dating around with like real women, I might be content just to play with dolls.
A level 4 MGTOW tries to limit his interactions with the state and everyone else as much as possible, too. He is what is referred to as a guy that's ghosting or trying to stay invisible to women and the state.
Whoa, okay, that sounds downright antisocial. I am not interested in moving in that direction. I mean, you know, again, feel free to clarify if you think I'm misunderstanding things. But, yeah, the way that sounds, it doesn't sound like anything I want to do. But, you know, hey, like I said, you know, the level 2 MGTOW, that does sound pretty much like me. The level 3 sounds pretty close to where I want to be in the future. I gotta say though, I'm not really one to appropriate ideological labels. I tend not to do that. So don't expect me to go around saying I'm a level 2 MGTOW. Everyone should go level 2 MGTOW. No, it's not really my kind of thing to do. That being said, since we do have some things that we agree on and some things that we promote in common, we can, you know, continue doing that. And I don't really perceive MGTOW to be a threat to me in any way. I don't think that they're necessarily doing anything that's going to get in the way of anything I'm doing. I don't see any reason why I'd be getting in the way of anything they're doing. So yeah, I think we can continue just to, you know, do our own thing and you know, maybe work together in that way to make this world a little bit better. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and share it with other people. If you're interested in watching my future videos, please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And I will see you all in the next one. So have a good one, guys, and peace.